Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our Live Well Advanced session. We are going to be discussing community leadership teams, Live Well Action from the Ground Up. And my name is Justine Kozo, and I'm a Chief Regional Community Coordinator for the North Central region of San Diego County in the Office of Equitable Communities within our Department of Homeless Solutions and Equitable Communities within HHSA with the County of San Diego. And today I'm very excited to be joined by our community leadership team co-chairs from other regions of the county, and also one of our performance managers within our public health services department. So I am just going to briefly talk about what the session will entail. So first, I would like to just give you a brief overview of what are the community leadership teams. Then I'll talk a bit about our community enrichment plans, and then we'll lead into a panel discussion with our other participants. So what are community leadership teams? The Health and Human Services Department of Homeless Solutions and Equitable Communities Office of Equitable Communities co-facilitates community leadership teams across our 6 county regions. So that includes South Region, Central Region, East Region, North Central Region, and then North Inland and North Coastal acting as one region. And these teams were created following the implementation of the Live Well San Diego vision, which was launched in 2010. And the goal is truly to support a county-wide region that is building better health, living safely, and thriving. The community leadership teams are comprised of cross-sector organizations, many of whom are Live Well San Diego partners, and these sectors include businesses, community and faith-based organizations, schools, academic institutions, medical organizations, and more. And these community leadership team meetings take place, throughout the county, throughout the month, and they're really a place for us to convene partners to foster collaboration towards supporting a region that is healthy, safe, and thriving. And I would say that all of our leadership team meetings really prioritize addressing the needs of our underserved communities, embracing diversity, social and health equity, economic inclusion, poverty reduction. And each of our community leadership teams are co-chaired by a county representative as well as community partners. And so that is the basic structure of our team. Also, within these teams, we identify what the priorities are for our regions, and then we create and implement what we call community enrichment plans. And that's truly our strategic framework, and it is linked to public health accreditation, and it includes our goals, objectives, and activities that support our priority areas. Next slide. And so why do we develop these community enrichment plans? Again, this is our strategic framework. It really helps us organize, provide a roadmap, and help us facilitate collaboration among our very diverse community partners that attend these leadership team meetings. It helps us gain consensus on these priority needs and concerns that we've identified. It also helps us leverage resources across these diverse sectors and among partners, and really help get people excited about supporting these different projects. We also bring in community departments, or county departments that support these areas. And then it overall advances that Live Well San Diego collective impact model. And these community enrichment plans also meet the standards established by the National Public Health Accreditation Board. And you will hear more about that shortly. Also, several of our community leadership teams are incorporating the Baldrige Communities of Excellence framework, and that also provides additional structure, tools, and measurement standards that help with improving health status and other key indicators such as educational attainment and economic vitality in our communities. So that's a little bit more about these community enrichment plans that are so central to our leadership team meetings. Within our community enrichment plans, again, we've already highlighted that we have each of the community leadership team meetings, or each of the community leadership teams have identified priorities. This is based on data. Our county community health statistics unit gives us a yearly presentation on data that is very specific to each of the regions. And through that information we receive from the data report, and then also just our partners really sharing what are the priorities and needs in the communities, we've identified priorities. And as you can see here, these are the priorities outlined within each of the 6 regions that we have, and there is a lot of commonality. So across all regions, several shared priorities include behavioral health, community safety, food and housing insecurity, and youth and families. And many of them intertwine and provide a great space for that cross-sector collaboration. And all of these priorities are then connected to work groups. So within each of our community leadership teams, we have work groups that reflect the priority areas, and they meet frequently to ensure that we're making progress on achieving our objectives. So how is the community enrichment plan built? So I mentioned just a moment ago that we have an annual data presentation report that's shared with our community leadership teams. And then the priorities are identified by each of the teams through discussion and looking at the data. And then we have, we bring in subject matter experts. Sometimes these are our community partners. Sometimes it includes a county subject matter expert. They come in and they share more insight on the priority areas and how we can access different resources, highlighting important campaigns and initiatives. And then we do other creative brainstorming approaches through, interactive polling or other types of virtual platforms for us to brainstorm and gather feedback from all of our members and partners. And then we have regular planning meetings, and we hold those with our community leadership team chairs. We get their input, and our Office of Equitable Communities in partnership with Public Health Services really provides the support for those conversations and the support in building these community enrichment plans and tracking the data and outcomes that come along with achieving our objectives. And again, this all feeds into our public health accreditation that Public Health Services facilitates. And it's a really wonderful recognition. And this is a very key part of that recognition. So today we have a couple of our co-chairs with us. I'm very excited to introduce them. We have Valerie Brew, who's the Departmental Director for SBCS, South Bay Community Services, and she is one of the co-chairs for our South Region Community Leadership Team. And we also have joining us today Karen Lignon, who's the Vice President of Urban Strategic Solutions, and she's a co-chair for the North Central Community Leadership Team. And the other individuals on this slide are other wonderful co-chairs who couldn't join us today, but they are leading our teams in East, North, and Central regions. So if it's okay, we will now switch it to the panel, and I'd like to call on each of our panelists to tell us your name again, the region you represent, and how long you've been connected to a community leadership team. So I will start with turning it over to you, Karen.
Oh, great. Thank you so much, Justine. And I really appreciate, first of all, being invited. And secondly, the great introduction that you gave regarding the purpose of our leadership teams. It was really comprehensive. I always learn more, even though I've been involved for many years with the leadership teams. I always learn more every time I hear you speak about them. So that's always great. So as I mentioned, I've been involved for many years. I am currently the co-chair for the North Central Region leadership team in San Diego County. And I have actually lived and worked in the North Central region for literally decades. So I was thinking about this before the meeting today. And so that's been my background and has been really great in terms of contributing to the leadership team because I actually live and work in the region at the same time. And so it's really been a great resource for me personally, as well as being able to give back. And let's see, I've worked at a number of different nonprofits over the years, all mostly focusing on substance misuse prevention and harm reduction. That's a key area for me. I recently joined Urban Strategic Solutions, which is a family nonprofit that my husband and I started many years ago that focuses more on homelessness and housing. So my support in that area overlaps with the substance misuse. So I'm really doing both. And I kind of really put myself out as a public health advocate because I think it's so important to be supporting our public health direction for the county, because we have so many, as time goes on, I just see the discrepancies and the need in my community. And so I'm really concerned and supported by that as well, by being a part of the leadership team. I'm a little bit embarrassed to say that I've actually been there since the beginning of Live Well. So I can remember the initial meetings of talking about healthy, safe, and thriving communities when we were first at the very first intersection of that trifecta. And so we've worked all the way through that and now have a new focus. But that was back in 2012, I want to say. And so I became one of the co-chairs in 2013. So over 10 years. I tried to quit a few times and Katie wouldn't let me, so thankfully, which is great. So I'm really very excited to have that historical knowledge to be able to give back for the community. So that's me. Valerie, I would love to hear more about how you got involved.
Absolutely. Well, as Justine said, my name is Valerie Brew with SBCS. We are a local nonprofit organization. And Karen, as with you, I have actually had the opportunity to be a part of Live Well San Diego since its inception back in 2012. I was originally a participant of the leadership team meeting. And back then, we also had advisory groups. So I was a member of the advisory group as well as several of the work groups. And fortunately, back in May of 2022, I was asked to be a co-chair for the South region. And so myself, along with my partner, Jeanette Pentagon from the county, we have been co-chairing the Live Well San Diego South Region Leadership since 2022. And it's just been a pleasure and honor to be a part of this initiative for 13 years now.
Well, thank you both. You both bring a wealth of knowledge and great community connections to these leadership roles, and we really appreciate your support. I will go ahead and start with some questions. And Valerie, I will start with you. How do community leadership teams support the community?
Great question. Gosh, it's so multifaceted. So I know prior to having the community leadership teams, I believe in the South, one of our assets and strengths was being very collaborative in nature. But what the leadership teams have brought is really like a systematic approach with shared visions and goals, bringing us all together. And while we were collaborative, I think oftentimes prior to the community leadership teams, we would work sometimes in silos and not quite integrating what we do. And I think since having Live Well community leadership teams, we have reduced barriers for accessing services. We have been coordinated in identifying gaps in our community and how do we problem solve and strategically plan for those gaps. And again, I think being united with one shared vision and one shared goal, regardless of what sector you're representing, whether you're a community member, a nonprofit, representing a jurisdiction, it is align the work we do. And I think ultimately having great collective impact as a result.
Thank you so much. Definitely. I'd love to hear from you, Karen. How do you feel the community leadership team support the community?
So thank you so much. And Valerie, I really resonate with what Valerie just explained. In the North Central region, it's a very unique region. I actually think every region is unique, but we have a unique collection of military as well as educational institutions in the region. And so there's a lot of diversity in terms of what those sectors need. And so it has been really eye-opening to be informed about that at the leadership team meetings, and also to reach back and give back to those sectors. And so that's been one area that has been very important as far as the leadership team goes. It also brings all of us together and brings that collective voice of the community. And I feel every single meeting, I learned something new. Today was our meeting. Actually, I was racing from it to get to this recorded session. So, and it was really very exciting for me to meet someone brand new who at first time at the meeting, and I've been doing this for quite a while. And so I was just so intrigued with what they were doing in terms of food insecurity in my community that I had no idea. I didn't even know that they existed. And so that is what the leadership team meetings are about, I think, is sharing those resources, finding those hidden gems in our community that are doing some of this incredible work that just goes unseen and really unrecognized. And so it's a place for those kinds of relationships to blossom and meet together with each other.
And if I may add to that, Karen, one of the things when I think about how it's really helped our community is in the South region, and I'm sure throughout the county of San Diego, we really have a robust set of resident leadership academies that we offer and provide, as well as great work from our promotoras. And I think since the leadership team meetings, we have been able to bring the voice of the community to the forefront and leading that work. And they've been such advocates in leading and deciding as a group. So I just want to give a shout out to our resident leadership academies and our promotoras. And I think it was very intentional with the leadership team and bringing their voice to the front.
I love that. Thank you, Valerie. Okay, now this question is specific for Valerie. How has the Baldrige Communities of Excellence framework impacted the South Region community leadership teams? And could you describe a little bit about what the framework entails?
Sure. I know when I'm asked about the Communities of Excellence framework, I go back to the first time I was introduced to it with the County of San Diego. And I know in the beginning, it felt a little bit overwhelming and daunting to think about taking a framework, the Baldrige framework, and applying this framework to an entire community, a broad spectrum community that is made up of thousands of residents and organizations, and how do we make this happen? And I think through the wonderful leadership with the County of San Diego, we were able to start slowly, but building the profile. So what I love about the Communities of Excellence is really sets a structure and a foundation and a framework that guides the work we do one step at a time. And our first step was actually developing our profile. And that was an eye-opener because it really it helps you to take a step back and look at our community in a different way. What are our assets? What is our profile? Where are the gaps? So it helps us to slow down, apply the framework, look at how we're going to be data-driven, who's missing, but most importantly, too, it really developed a way of how we're going to structure ourselves with decision-making, how we're going to govern ourselves. What are our expectations? What are our values? Through Communities of Excellence. And I really appreciated the opportunity. I believe it was back in 2018, where I had an opportunity to attend a Baldrige conference where Communities of Excellence was talked about. And we were the first cohort, one of the first cohorts for Communities of Excellence. So it's a great opportunity to learn from other communities across the nation. And how do we really take a community that's even thriving to be excellent? So I don't know if I answered your question, Justine, but it's been a remarkable process.
No, it has been to be able to witness that from the other regions and see how successful it has been. And as you mentioned, providing that framework and helping with the decision-making processes are all things that I know the other regions are excited to adopt as well. And on this note, I'd also like to bring in another person who's joined us today, who's part of our panel, and her name is Jackie Worth, and she is the Performance Improvement Manager in our Public Health Services Department. And she is really the one who has been the support to all of our leadership teams in developing that community enrichment plan, which provides the strategic framework for each of our leadership teams. And I covered that just a few minutes ago. And I'm so glad that she's joined us here today. And Jackie, I'd like to pitch a question to you. And if you could help describe why the community enrichment plans are so important to the National Public Health Accreditation Board and how they feed into our process of becoming accredited for public health services.
Thanks for that question, and I mean it. It's a great question. The community enrichment plans are really what give public health. It is action on the ground, and the accreditation process for public health departments involves a lot of different requirements and standards. But I will tell you, their emphasis has always been on the community planning piece of it. And we're in a special position. We're really distinguished as a county because we have Live Well San Diego, which a lot of counties don't have anything comparable, nor do they have these community leadership teams that are on the ground working all the time year round. Because a lot of times they just stand up a team to prepare a plan, but it's not as invested in the community as our approach is. So it's really fun for me, exciting to be part and to support this effort. And the planning methodology is very similar to what Valerie is describing for communities of excellence. I think communities of excellence has a particular rigor about it, but a method is a method, and it's just a way to ensure that there's some kind of discipline to the plan, because the ideas want to help the participants on those leadership teams be able to say, hey, we've accomplished something, and these things will contribute to measurable improvement in the long run in the community. So it's all about kind of a chain of events, the activities that lead to better and better outcomes. And so that's how we provide the support, both the method and in the measurement as well of what we're doing.
Thank you, Jackie. And I would say, as having been part of the process of developing those community enrichment plans and then seeing some of our sister regions go through the Baldrige Communities of Excellence process, those community enrichment plans really set up the other regions for a more successful Baldrige experience. Because from what I understand, when our cohorts have joined, they're far beyond some of the other jurisdictions that are part of the Baldrige Communities of Excellence framework cohorts, because they've already established that priority setting, convening the partners, deciding on goals and objectives. So it's been really advantageous to have these community enrichment plans over the years. So thank you for all your support. And now we'll go to the next question. And Karen, let's start with you. How would you say a community member or a community partner benefits from attending a community leadership team meeting or being a part of that community leadership team?
Sure, such a great question. And I'm so glad you asked it, Justine, because this is my favorite part about the community leadership teams. And the benefits are just innumerable. I can't even begin to express how many benefits there are. But as an organization, you meet other members of organizations doing like-minded work in your community. As an individual, same thing. You learn where resources are, you learn what organizations are in your neighborhood. As I mentioned earlier, I have lived and worked in the North Central region for dozens of years, and every month I find out something new about my community. So I just think it's a plethora of contacts that you can make at these meetings. And every month seems to be a little bit different. We kind of define our work life right now between pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. So the look of things has changed a little bit post-pandemic. But I know that pre-pandemic, we had all these great presentations, and we really kind of took for granted the camaraderie that we developed and the friendships at the meetings. And then the pandemic hit, and we didn't meet together physically for a couple of years. And so it seems as though post-pandemic, everyone is just so excited to be there and to be out again and to be able to collaborate. And we have new people that come every single month. I know we're having a little bit of difficulty kind of gauging, which organizations are coming and which come and go. And so they have the flexibility to be able to do that, because maybe sometimes on the second Wednesday of the month, you might not be available, and that's okay. It's a little bit of a commitment, but if you miss a meeting, it's fine. And you can switch from one work group to another. So there's a lot of flexibility. And the benefits, as I mentioned, are innumerable. I can't really see anything that is not beneficial. There's only positives in being in this group. And so I have greatly benefited both personally as well as professionally in being in the group, and just the contacts that I've made and some of the things that have come to light as a result of attending the meetings and the things that we learn and share.
That's so wonderful to hear. Well, thank you. The fact that you've been a part of it for over 10 years definitely speaks to the fact that you see great benefit in joining these meetings. So thank you. And Valerie, would you like to add to that? Do you see any? So if this recording is viewed by one of our community partners out there who's never been to a leadership team meeting, what would you tell that person in terms of what benefits they might gain from coming?
Two things come to mind for me, and I agree, Karen, with everything that you said, but I can't highlight enough the relationship building. You know, we can't do this work alone, and it really taking a community that we want to be healthy, safe, and thriving in a community of excellence. We all, you know, we can't do it alone. And what it's afforded me in my professional capacity, as well as personal capacity, as well as our organization, is the trusted relationships over the decades. And I think membership and participation kind of shows that, right? I've been involved since 2012, and we have the same organization, the same entities, where we continue to bring on new partners, new residents, new community members. So it's growing and growing and growing. So I just would like to highlight that. But I also think too, like what we can do together can make a huge difference. And Justine, in a previous slide, you talked about our priorities that we kind of go through and set. And there were some commonalities. And if we just look at one being homelessness, or those that are experiencing being unsheltered, that's such a complex issue for our community. And to think about as an organization or as an individual professional trying to help solve that issue, there's just no way I could do it alone. And the work that we've done as a leadership team collectively, and the impact we've made at a broader scale when we all come together. So that's what I would say. If anyone hasn't attended, definitely those would be two things I would want to highlight for people.
I want to add one more thing, if I could. I know we're a little bit pressed for time, but just to encourage an organization, no matter how large or small, but I always feel like I have the power of the behavioral health services and just the best of the county of San Diego behind me when I come to these meetings, because we have so many resources in the county that many of us may not know about and may not utilize. And so having that framework and knowing the work that has gone into this community planning, and just hearing from Jackie about how there are so many communities outside of San Diego that do not have this power behind them. I think as an organization, that is very powerful to have that county support behind you and just to know where it is and what you can find there.
Great. Thank you so much. Well, I think this is our last question, and just want to put it out there. If either of you, or even you, Jackie, if there's anything, you know, reflecting back on your time you've spent with your leadership team, is there any project or initiative that you were a part of that was connected to your leadership team that stands out as something you'd like to share? Karen, I'm going to start with
I
you.
have a list. I don't know that I can pick just one. I mean, over the years, we've worked on so many great projects, but a couple that come to mind in terms of substance misuse, which is really kind of what I really focus on. So one was what you want your parents to know, what I think your parents should know, was the title of it. And so it was a project that was put forth by one of the community teams and organizations. However, the entire leadership team got involved with it. So there was that support to help that project move forward and to advertise it and to make sure that attendance was great. And there were several different iterations of what I wish my parents knew about that. And it centered around things like vaping and substance misuse and other things that teens could possibly become involved with and not really have as much information about. So that was a really great project. Another one was we did a really fun social media piece on what's in a sheet cake. And so I have to make sure I enunciate sheet. That's SHEET. So because we were celebrating a lot, and so we were trying to emphasize nutrition in our food security group, and so, or work group. And so there was a whole social media presentation about what's in a sheet cake and what could possibly replace some of those for snacks. So those were two projects that were really great. We also did some things about safe walks to school for school children. And most recently, we had a presentation about how to administer Narcan or naloxone in the case of an opioid overdose. And so just really really practical things that happened at those leadership team meetings that were useful for everyone in the community.
That's great. Thanks so much for sharing. Valerie, do you have anything to share?
I do. One of the things I think that I'm most proud of in the years is a program that we entitled I'm Ready. And this happened in the summer of 2019. So we had an economic vitality work group as one of the previous work groups of the Live Well in the South region. And it was just amazing. So it was basically a summer internship program we put together for youth ages 18 to 24. And so our economic vitality subwork group of the larger leadership team partner with local businesses and organizations to host youth for a paid summer intern program. And Justine, I think that's the example too I was giving previously, where as SBCS as an example, maybe we host internships. So we brought together within this sub work group over 9 partners. So the National City Chamber of Commerce, the South County Economic Development Council, our organization, the county, and we put on this wonderful program in the summer because we saw that it was a kind of a risk time for youth, as well as a very vulnerable population being the transition age youth. So we're really proud of what we did there. Again, leveraging our resources, coming together, and then we had some great data to show after that as well. So proud of that. That's a program we're really proud of that came from Live Well.
Great. Those are great examples. And Jackie, do you have any parting words about public health accreditation and the community enrichment plans before we move on to the last few slides of our presentation?
Well, I don't want to eclipse where you're going about resources, but I did want to say that on the website, on the Live Well website, are some highlights of each of the regions and what they've done under the last community enrichment plans. And the new ones are being developed and will soon be published, reflecting the hard work. And I would say what's interesting too is the topics have changed a lot, reflecting kind of what's going on today out in the community. So that's kind of interesting too. So it'll be really interesting to see going forward what the teams are able to accomplish.
Definitely. And we will have that link in the very last slide of this presentation. And yes, I think those community enrichment plans can inspire other jurisdictions and other community groups that want to work collectively to address community needs and priorities. So that's really great. Thank you, Jackie. And thank you to our panelists. We're now going to move on with the final slides of our presentation and tell people how they can attend these meetings. So I'm just going to quickly go over, this is our central leadership team, and it meets the 4th Monday of every month, the odd months it meets virtually, and the even months it meets in person. And we'll tell you how to get information about that at the end. Okay, next slide. This is our South leadership team. Valerie Brew is the co-chair for this team, and they meet the 2nd Monday of every even month, and it's virtually via Zoom. Next slide. And then this is our North Central Community Leadership Team. Karen and I are the co-chairs for this team, and we meet the 2nd Wednesday of every even month. Oh, of every month, actually. That is a small little typo there. We meet every single month, and we meet in person at a meeting location on Kearney Villa Road. Okay, next slide. And then our East Region Community Leadership Team meets the 3rd Thursday of every month, and they also meet in person in El Cajon. Next slide. And our North County, which combines North Coastal and North Inland regions, it meets the 1st Monday of every month, and they are also meeting in person, and they meet in San Marcos. Next slide. And this is where you can take out your smartphone right now and you can scan this QR code, and that will help you subscribe to our community regional newsletters. There is a regional newsletter that goes out every single week, and it's specific to each of those regions. And it also tells you when our leadership team meetings are going to take place. And also, if you go to livewellsd.org, you can access more information about the community leadership teams, as well as our community enrichment plans that Jackie mentioned just a few minutes ago. So please note this website, scan this QR code, and thank you so much for joining us today. And we hope to see you at a community leadership team meeting in the future. So please join us. Thank you so much to our panelists. And that concludes our presentation.